Hello, I'm Rod Sampson, the US agent for Brunton's Propellers. In this video we're going to show you how to service a Varifold folding sailboat propeller. Okay, so you've just hauled out, you've taken your propeller off and you're looking to service it for your yearly service. And this video is going to show you some tips and tricks on how to take it apart, what to look for, how to change the buffer pads and how to put it back together again. So the first thing you're going to do is just look at the two different types. This is a sail drive propeller. And this one here is a shaft drive propeller. You can see the difference in the hubs. They're both 3 blades. Beyond the different hub style, they're very, very similar propellers. We do have 2 models on the market at the moment in terms of buffer pads. These are the little, when the blade's open, these are the little pads that you cushion on the inside when the blade folds. The earlier propellers used, these are called bump on. They're little rubber sticky pads, and this is what this model here has just inside under the blade. These are very, very straightforward to replace. You just take the other one off with a little knife or a screwdriver and stick it in. The more modern ones from now use like a nylon. You can see that on the camera there. They use a nylon buffer pad, and this sits in. You can just see there's some in there, just in here. These sit in here, and then again rest the blade. They last an awful lot longer than the rubber ones, but they're an awful lot harder to get out. So we're going to basically show you how to strip down. I'll just do the sail drive one. The principles are very, very similar, and show you how to strip it down. Okay, so the first thing is we've got the parts we need are going to be 3 buffer pads, 1 for each blade, and we're going to need a zinc. Okay, so this one you can see here, it's had a hard life. This came back in for service, and it's been a useful zinc to explain to people how they wear. This is what it should have looked like. So you can see it's quite a different beast. So we've got our zinc and we've got our pads. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take off the zinc holder. Now this is an important part, and if you get your boat hauled out, some of the yards believe that this is a disposable part. They'll just see the tabs underneath the zinc holder, and they'll take the 3 screws off and they'll throw it out, and it's an expensive part, so you want to make sure that it doesn't get lost if you're getting somebody else to haul out. So first thing to do is just take little Allen bolts off there. There should be 3 of those on there. 2, 3, 6 over there. Okay, and then the zinc holder comes off. You can see it's just a bronze part, same as the propeller. Normally you would just take a pipe wrench and wind this one off. For this, I won't actually do that because we use it on the trade stand. And then once you get that, you can kind of see the gears now of what's inside the propeller. So the next thing to do, we've got 3 screws holding each of the blades in, and inside there is what's called a pivot pin, and it's where the blades rotate around and what keeps all the gears and all the teeth working together. So very, very straightforward. This is obviously an easier model. I've taken it apart several times in producing the video, so these bolts are going to come out way quite easy. In reality, you're going to have gunk and barnacles and marine growth and all sorts in the blades, so it's not always easy to get the blades out. And also we put a little bit of Loctite in when we come around to reassemble it, so again it can be quite a challenge to get them going. That's 1, that's 2, there should be 1 more. There we go. The last one. There we go. Now if you do replace these are all 316 stainless, A4 stainless. That's a marine grade stainless. If you use a lower grade stainless, they will corrode, so make sure you do actually use marine grade stainless fasteners when you replace them, if you need to replace them. Okay, so the next step, you're going to go around and take each one of the blades off and I just push a little screwdriver. It's a good fit, but it's not a tight fit. So you can see on this one, the pin just kicks out. There's nothing else holding on. It's just a very well machined precision ground shaft, and then the blade will just pull out. Okay. Now it's a good idea before you do this. All the blades, when they're put together, are all dynamically balanced. So it's a good idea to mark the blades and mark the bay that it sits in. So when you reassemble it, you're putting the blades back in order. It just helps with the balance, and then just to make sure that there's any undue vibration from the blades being out of order, sort of thing. So there's 1, 2. The last one. So sometimes if it's been a while since you've serviced, you might have to tap them out with a soft mallet, but in general they just push straight out. There we go, it's a good fit. Okay, so that's what those look like. They're a little stainless steel ground shaft. You just check them for wear. If they've got any big lines and stuff, you can replace them. These very seldom go, so it's not usually a part we replace very often. Then you've got your hub. So I think see inside there. So we've got the 3 buffer pads. You've got marine growth and all sorts of things growing in there. So these are the little white pads that we want to pull out. Now then, when I first started the video, I've not actually taken them out before, and I was assuming that you could just put a little screw in, or you could put a screwdriver underneath, and then prise them out, and then progressively, after take, it got to the point where we realised that the methods we've been used to referring people to are not quite adequate. So the correct way, this is approved by the factory, is actually to start off with a pilot drill and then get progressively, so this is just a pilot, this is 1/4 inch, and this is 5/8, and just to build them up in size. Let's just go ahead and see if we can do a couple and see how that goes. So I picked the world's dullest drill. There we go. That one did it. You can see that on the camera there. And there's the last peg of it. Okay, so completely destroyed. And that's what this one looks like. So that's one done. So I'm going to now repeat that for the other 2, and then we'll just clean it up, and then we'll start putting it back together again. See how that goes. Okay, let's do the next 2. Okay, so that one came out easy. Just take that one off there. Again, that's the second one there. You see that on camera. 2, and the final one. 3. Okay, so you can see from that, the first one we used a little bit of leverage. The last 2 was a 5/8 drill. It just got a hold of it and it takes it straight out. So it's finding whatever works for yourself. This one for me was quite straightforward. And there we have it. Okay, so that's what's left of the old ones, and you can see on them they should have a wear pattern on here, and this is just where the blade sits, and through their life they will get completely squished, and this is completely normal. So sometimes they will be wafer thin depending on how often you change them. Sometimes they can be quite chunky. Sometimes as well you can get a line inside them when the palm of the blade under here, if this edge is worn or has got too sharp, this edge here, you can see it here, this sits on the blade here, and it can actually dig in and you get a line here, and it creates a point where the blade just digs in, and it gives it an edge where it'll stop the blade from opening fully. So the buffer pads are really overlooked part of service for an autoprop. Varifold. You normally swap out the zinc, but do keep an eye on these because they are quite important to the work in the propeller. The other thing as well, obviously, when the blades are thrown open, if they don't have the buffer pad, it's metal on metal, and what you tend to find is you'll get cracks on the back of the blade over time. I mean, years of doing it. So if you're not keeping it up, or if you're buying a boat that has a Varifold on, do fold the blades back and check the buffer pads, because it gives you an idea of how well the propeller's been looked after. Okay, so now we would clean up the whole propeller. I'm just going to take some of the fouling out. So you'd probably take a wire brush, a wire wheel to the propeller. Typically in the yard they would probably, again, just do what I'm going to do. A little bit of spit and polish, and then put it all back together again. You're just basically looking to keep it all clear of the marine fouling. Keep those little recesses clear. They do tend to build up with like a calcification. There we go. So that's what we're looking for. You can see there is some fouling, but just to make sure that when the new pins are pushed in, they sit down and they've got somewhere lovely to sit. Okay, so putting the new ones back in is again very straightforward. You can see they just sit in quite nicely. Okay, so what I'm going to use is we've got the 3 pivot pins over here. They're obviously great stock, and the temptation is to use those. I would advise against it. Just if you get anything on any edge on the either face of the pin, it'll not go in very easily, and it can cause the blades not to open. So this is just an old piece of stock. It's just one of the old pivot pins that I'm going to use, and we're just going to just tap them in. There's one. So it'll start off quite nice, and again, just a soft mallet. Two. Three. Okay, so that's the pads back on the propeller. So at this point, we're pretty much finished stripping it down, maintaining it. I would probably take the blades to the workshop. We've got a steel wire wheel just on a bench grinder, and then I would go at the propeller and give it a good clean and get it all nice and shiny. And same with the blades. Teeth, I wouldn't really do much to them, just give them a bit of a clean. And then before you reassemble it, you've got a couple of options. You can paint it with a foul release paint like Prop Speed, or an ablative like a Micron or one of the Petite paints. But when you do it, make sure you don't paint the shoulders, these things here, so that where the blades, anywhere the blades surfaces rub, they don't get fouled. And also don't paint the teeth. So yeah, just not this edge and not this edge here. You can paint very, very close to the root, that's totally fine. And obviously the blades as well, so it's not a problem. But just nowhere where it touches. Okay, so we've got the pads back on, we've got the zinc taken care of, and we're ready to reassemble. Now then, the first thing to remember is that I'm rebuilding this in the studio. What I'm going to do now is assuming it's going to be back on the boat, so please don't rebuild it, Loctite everything, all the bolts and stuff, what I'm doing now. The next step would be to take the hub and then to slide this one back on the sail drive, or if it's just a shaft, key back on, slide it on the shaft, make sure it's on the taper or on the spline correctly, torque up the bolt, and then either lock the nuts for the sail drive, or torque down the prop nut on the shaft. So then this one would be done in the yard on the hard and reassembled. So again, this is just a little bit of a stylized refit that we're going to do. So we're in the yard, we're back on the hard surface, we're going to start rebuilding. First thing to do, just pick up one of the blades, obviously make sure you've got the order and the base correct, slide them in and just align them up a little bit, take your pivot pins, and these should fit quite nicely. There shouldn't be a hard push. I don't tend to hammer these ones in at all, and then it's just a case of the next one, the blade's in order. Again, just fits in like so, and one more time, the last one. Okay, and it's starting to look like a propeller again. So it's always good. Always good not to have any bits left over. Okay, so at this point you make sure that all the blades, the teeth are matching properly, and that they move, and that they move together like this. So you can actually set one of the blades off wrong. You can see it'll still move, but one of the blades will be too high, and it's not something you want. Okay, so you've got all the blades level, all the pins are in, like so, and they're nice in the channels. Okay, everything's moving as it should do, nice and freely. Okay, the next step is to take your M8s, these ones just here, and we're just going to put a little bit of Loctite on them. And start to reassemble them. Okay. It's 2. Again, these bolts are, just make sure that they're in good condition. They're very, very inexpensive. We do sell the little kits, just a little bag full of all the screws that you need exactly for one propeller. So that's them, a little bit of Loctite on them, and then we're just going to wind those ones in, and they should be, pretty straightforward to get in. They shouldn't be tight. If it's an older propeller and it's getting a bit gunged up, I say replace the fasteners. If that doesn't work, you might have to put a tap down them just to fresh it out a little bit, but it shouldn't really have any problems with this. 2, the last one there. So I'm just nipping these up, I'm not overly tightening them. That comes up just next. Okay, so that's that one. Next thing, if you have a torque wrench, it's a great idea to torque the bolts correctly. The actual torque required for this is 15 Newton meters. Now, obviously, torque wrenches the smaller ones are hard to find and to get a good one. So this one here is actually it's off a bicycle repair wrench. It's called Bike Hand, and it comes from 2 to 24 Newton meters, which is perfect for propeller range. So 15 Newton meters, you just wind it up till you get the little scale to come up, and then all we're doing, getting it in the bolt, a nice perpendicular push or pull, just till it clicks. That's 1. 2. 3. Bolts all tightened. Next thing to do, obviously we had the zinc. It was all a little corroded mess. I'm going to take a little holder that we had from the other propeller. So this one here is what it normally would look like. Again, you would take the bolts, a little bit of Loctite on the bolts. I'm not going to do that for this one, and it just goes. That's 1. Make sure it sits nice and snugly. It does have a little channel it sits in with just the 3 of them. So I've Loctited all 3 of those. Again, just a nice little nip. 2, 3. And finally, you'll take the zinc. So you can see on the zinc, it's got obviously it's threaded, ready to go. This is the standard VF3AN zinc from Brunton's. And it just sits on. Careful not to cross thread it. Tend to put a little bit of Loctite on the threads. Once it gets to the bottom, nice little tight, and then you can take a pipe wrench and just nip it and give it a little twist. And it's all, you know, nice and tight and locked in place. And that's it. So what we've done, taken the propeller, stripped it down. We've drilled out the white buffer pads with a 5/8 drill until they came free and you saw them spin out. The black buffer pads in the other model, they just come off with a little screwdriver and they stick on. We've cleaned the blades and we've reassembled the blades, put Loctite on the blades, 15 Newton meters, actually in both bolts is 15 Newton meters. Tighten them all up, make sure that all the blades, they're all in the correct order and they all move the same. Then we put the zinc holder back on and we put the zinc on. Again, a little bit of Loctite, nipped it up. And this was all done, as I said, it was all done in the yard, so it'd all be, you know, 90 degrees the other way. And that's your yearly service. The Varifold is a really, really simple service. A lot of this can be done underwater. I know a couple of guys that will do it and clean it underwater, and we're okay with that. As long as it's looked after. Again, this is a wearing part propeller. The teeth, they do rub, and we expect under normal use to get 10, 12, 14 seasons out of them. So it's a very, very tough bronze that they're made from, but the more you can look after it, the more you keep it in good condition, the longer the life you're going to be. Thanks for watching.